5 names, 1 crown. The year is 1990. A new kind of fame steps onto the page. Linda Evangelista, Naomi Campbell, Christy Turlington, Cindy Crawford, Claudia Schiffer. They don't just show clothes, they pull focus. Fees soar, cameras follow. Music videos, TV, billboards. Everywhere you look, it's them. Designers plan their shows around the arrivals of their guests. Editors build covers that sell out on site. Fans learn the walks, the hair, the faces that flip with every shoot. Power shifts from labels to the women who wear them. So, who ruled that moment? Was it the shapeshifter who could become anyone? The runway storm that bent a room to her pace? The calm beauty who made time stop? The home screen star who turned fame into business? The record breaker who sold a look to the whole world? Hit play. We'll pull the thread, weigh the evidence, and name the queen. Stay for the verdict. In the late 1980s, the fashion industry underwent a significant shift. Before then, most models were known within the industry, while the garments took center stage. Then, a small group stepped forward and made the model the story. Editors, designers, and the public learned their names, watched for their arrivals, and measured shows by their presence. The change shows up in concrete moments. A shared cover in January 1990 announced the discovery of a new class of stars. That same year, a music video transformed 5 models into a cultural chorus, and a 1991 runway finale framed them as a united front. Together, they proved that a model's name could be a headline that reached beyond fashion press into mainstream news. Money followed. Fees grew, contracts lengthened, and exclusives shaped schedules. Linda Evangelista captured the shift with a cool aside in 1990. "We don't wake up for less than $10,000 a day." The line traveled because it fit the moment. Brands paid for faces that could move product, and these women could do it on command. Each of the 5 carried a distinct role within the same wave. One became the master of reinvention in front of a lens. One owned the runway like a stage and forced doors open that had been closed. One blended classical beauty with discipline and then pivoted to advocacy. One crossed into mass culture through television, advertising, and astute business practices. One broke cover count records and turned a single look into a signature seen around the world. The question of queen begins here, in how those roles set different standards: skill, presence, reach, purpose, and scale. From this point, the contest would not be a single race, but 5 lanes running in parallel, with the public trying to rank different kinds of power. Linda Evangelista built a career on transformation. Throughout the 1990s, she cut, dyed, and restyled her hair in quick succession. A black pixie, a vivid red bob, and a platinum crop. Each change set off echoes across salons and runways. More than a haircut, it was a signal. She could become what a picture needed and sell that shift with absolute conviction. Editors and designers counted on that range. Evangelista became a central figure for top photographers, most notably Steven Meisel, and for houses that sought to create a lasting image for a season. She stacked magazine covers by the hundreds around the world. The volume is striking, yet the lasting point is how those covers all look different. The pose, the mood, the line of the jaw. She moved through them like rolls. Designers praised her focus. Karl Lagerfeld called her the best working model of the time, noting that she poured her energy into the craft itself. That intensity showed in studio habits. She studied light, hair, and makeup, and offered ideas that lifted a frame from good to unforgettable. Colleagues recall that she arrived prepared and left only when an image matched the goal. Her influence changed economics too. Rates rose when Linda was on the call sheet, and the day rate quip became shorthand for the era. Big-budget campaigns embraced the model as a star. Car commercials and beauty ads built entire concepts around the presence of a supermodel. Evangelista did not chase acting or side projects during her peak. She doubled down on pictures and shows, and her output made a case that modeling could stand as an art in its own right. After a decade at the center, she stepped back in 1998 and later returned in select campaigns. Outside the studio, she supported HIV/AIDS causes through high-profile charity work and appearances. Honors came early and late, including a major Lifetime award before the decade closed and national recognition at home. With time, personal battles entered the public record, yet her standing held. When she reappeared in new editorials years later, the face and the eye for a frame were still there. Evangelista's province is the image itself. If the crown rests on craft, on the ability to shape a photograph at will, her claim is the most direct and the hardest to dispute. Naomi Campbell turned a walk into a signature. The rhythm of her stride, the set of the shoulders, the calm control at speed, crowds felt it before the camera did. By the early 1990s, she was the defining runway presence, often named first when houses cast their shows. Magazines labeled her a mega model, and designers seated her at the heart of their lineups. The path upward was not smooth. Campbell stood alone in many lineups as the only black model, and she pushed against that pattern. Landmark covers marked that push. A breakthrough in France in 1988, a crucial American September issue the following year. Those images altered expectations in boardrooms and mastheads. Close colleagues backed her, declining jobs if she was excluded. That quiet stand made change faster and more visible. Her impact reached beyond the runway. Music videos placed her at the center of a frame shared with global stars. Fashion books invited her into riskier projects that drew headlines and debate. She opened and closed shows for designers who sought energy, finality, and authority at those pivotal moments in a collection. Television spectacles found a recurring role for her during her run, and audiences began to expect that certain stages would belong to Naomi for a moment that no one else could claim. Campbell also expanded the capabilities of a model through name recognition. She recorded an album, appeared in films and series, and later mentored new talent on camera. Not every experiment landed, yet each expanded the map for models in media. Through it all, she maintained a high fashion schedule well past the age when most careers typically decline. Major councils honored her lifetime in the field with top-tier icon awards on both sides of the Atlantic. Service framed the later chapters. Work with Nelson Mandela in the 1990s led to ongoing charity projects, and in 2005, she launched a relief runway platform that has raised funds for crisis around the world. In recent years, she has added motherhood and business ventures to her life while maintaining a selective presence in campaigns and on the catwalk. If the crown is measured by presence, reach, and endurance, Naomi's case is strong. She made the runway a stage, widened who gets to stand on it, and kept that standard for decades. Few could match the mix of fearlessness and control she brought to a catwalk. Her name came to mean more than fame. It meant velocity, command, and certainty at the most critical minute of a show. Cindy Crawford moved fashion into living rooms. Her face was everywhere, in magazines, on billboards, and on primetime television. The signature beauty mark became a calling card rather than a flaw to hide. She balanced high fashion work with mainstream projects that reached audiences far outside the usual circles. The resume from her peak is dense. She signed major cosmetics deals, fronted global campaigns, and stayed on the marquee for top houses season after season. A bold political culture cover in the mid-1990s demonstrated that she could shape conversations, not just sell products. Television magnified that effect. As the host of a hit-style show from 1989 to 1995, she invited viewers behind the scenes and turned designers, editors, and models into familiar faces. A single Super Bowl commercial fixed her as a pop icon in the eyes of viewers who did not follow fashion at all, and brands echoed that image in later campaigns. Crawford tried a feature film at the height of her visibility. The movie earned poor reviews and modest returns, yet its casting said something about her reach. A studio gambled on her name at a time when few models received top billing. The lesson proved helpful in business. After stepping back from full-time modeling in 2000, she founded companies in skincare and home goods, attaching her name to products with lasting appeal. Books and interviews provided a thoughtful examination of fame, work, and family, and a joint cover with her daughter in 2016 marked a quiet passing of the torch to a new generation without diminishing her own appeal. She also revisited classic ads years later, playing with nostalgia while keeping her image current, a rare balance in any field. A careful pace of work let the public miss her between significant moments, and then welcome her back with interest. Her public work also pointed toward service. Childhood loss shaped her support for pediatric cancer research. Proceeds and appearances helped fund labs and programs over many years. As she returned for special runway tributes and selective covers, the through line stayed clear: connect high fashion to everyday culture in ways that feel direct and warm. Crawford's claim centers on visibility and translation. She made fashion accessible to millions, transformed a face into a trusted brand, and maintained that brand's stability across decades. The public aged with her and trusted her choices, which is rare in a field that often prizes the new over the known. Christy Turlington carried a calm that read as timeless on the page. Editors chased that quality for perfume ads, beauty contracts, and crisp studio portraits. In 1989, she became the face of a major fragrance, and decades later, the brand brought her back, proof that specific images endure. Cosmetics campaigns put her in households around the world, and runway seasons counted on her precision and poise. At her peak, she also looked inward. In 1994, she enrolled at New York University and later graduated with honors in 1999, focusing her studies on religion and philosophy. The choice signaled priorities that were not contingent upon the next booking. Cameras still followed. Documentaries and fashion films followed her through show cycles in the mid-1990s, offering one of the most candid glimpses into a supermodel's daily life that the public had seen up to that point. A medical scare after childbirth reshaped her path. In 2010, Turlington founded Every Mother Counts to improve maternal health worldwide, produced a documentary to highlight gaps in care, and ran marathons to raise funds and attention. Advocacy took her to clinics, boardrooms, and legislatures. Recognition came from major publications that profile global leaders, placing her in lists that reach far beyond the fashion industry. She never cut ties with the industry that made her name. Memorable shoots, anniversary covers, and a late career runway return kept her in the conversation, yet the center of gravity shifted toward the nonprofit she had built and the policies she had tried to change. Turlington's claim is built on balance and purpose, rare beauty, steady work, and a second act that treats fame as a tool for public good. Claudia Schiffer stepped into the 1990s as a study in consistency. The look, a modern echo of a mid-century bombshell, landed from the first Guess campaign and stayed strong through a long run of covers and contracts. Discovery stories often sound tidy in hindsight. In her case, the through line is clear. A teenager from Germany became one of the most recognizable faces on Earth within a few years. The metrics tell a clean story. She amassed over 1,000 magazine covers and set records during the height of her career. She made the front of magazines that rarely chose models, sharing space generally reserved for actors and musicians. Fees rose to eye-catching figures by 1992 for runway work, and a huge cosmetics contract that same year placed her at the top of the pay scale. Brands booked her knowing that audiences would know her at a glance. Designers trusted her to carry a house identity. Karl Lagerfeld drew her into Chanel's world early in the decade, and she walked and shot for nearly every major label in Europe and the United States. Advertisers used her face to sell everything from soda to luxury goods, confident that the image could carry a campaign with minimal copy. Minor film roles and a much-watched public relationship kept her in headlines even when fashion weeks were over. In the 2000s, Schiffer transitioned toward family life while maintaining a foot in the business. Long-running beauty partnerships continued, and in 2011, she launched a knitwear line that extended her taste into product design. Charity work added a quieter chapter to a loud career, with roles supporting children and global health. Select reunions and tributes brought her back to the runway for moments that drew applause from editors and fans who remembered the 1990s firsthand. Schiffer's claim leans on scale and dependability. She was the sure bet, the face that could carry a global campaign with a single glance and the name that could fill a cover line anywhere. When magazines needed a classic kind of glamour with instant recognition, they called Claudia. When brands required a promise that an image would land in every market at once, they called her again. That reliability, paired with a record of covers and contracts, is her royal seal. Each member of the Big Five ruled a distinct province. Evangelista mastered transformation and set a professional standard that lifted rates and expectations. Campbell owned the runway, widened the circle of who was seen there, and held that ground across decades. Turlington balanced beauty with study and built a durable platform for maternal health. Crawford made fashion mainstream through television, ads, and business. Schiffer set records and sold a singular image to the world at a volume few have matched. So, who wears the crown? Inside studios and on set, many point to Evangelista. Her peers and the people who build images credit her with turning a day's work into something closer to performance, frame by frame. The famous day rate line became folklore, yet the real evidence is on the page. Covers and campaigns that could not look more different from month to month, all carried by the same face. Designers like Lagerfeld singled her out for a reason. She arrived ready to shift shape, and she did it without diluting focus with acting or music during her peak, which mattered to editors and photographers who prized concentration on the craft. The counterclaims have weight. Campbell's case runs on presence and progress, the walk, the attitude, and the doors she pushed open for models of color. Her awards from major councils reinforce how the field sees her. Turlington's case is driven by values, education amidst success, a second career in public health, and proof that a supermodel can turn fame into lasting change. Crawford's case runs on reach, a TV audience, a populist charm, and companies that kept her name in homes long after most careers fade. Her stamina became a story in its own right, one that younger models cite when discussing what a long career can look like. Schiffer's case runs on records, unmatched cover counts, high watermark contracts, and a look that stayed desirable across continents and eras. A crown can sit in more than one place. For craft, many choose Linda. For runway dominance and representation, many choose Naomi. For substance and service, many choose Christy. For cultural ubiquity and commerce, many choose Cindy. For scale and classic glamour, many choose Claudia. The lesson that holds the group together is simple. The era worked because their strengths did not cancel out, they stacked. Editors could have one for a graphic beauty story that needed reinvention, one for a runway that required electricity, one for a cause that needed a steady advocate, one for a broadcast moment that needed a familiar face, and one for a campaign that needed instant recognition. The audience was global then, and it is even more global now. Fans far from fashion capitals learned these names through television, film, magazines, and posters. The reach shaped dreams in many languages. That border-crossing appeal is the lasting legacy, and it keeps the question alive every time a fresh face climbs the same ladder. That is why the question endures. People argue over crowns when a period feels singular and complete. The early 1990s were like that. The industry had money, a clear set of stars, and media channels ready to amplify them. The result was a short list of names that still draw a reaction 3 decades on. If a single name must be spoken, Linda Evangelista stands slightly ahead in the arena of pure modeling. The curtain fell on that decade, yet its imprint stayed. Those 5 made modeling a public arena where names carried weight and futures widened. Their images remain in archives and mood boards, but the more profound change is plain. A model could now lead, earn, and set terms. Careers that followed were built on that foundation. One may prize craft, another runway command, another service, another reach, another scale. The measure you choose shapes your answer. What stands beyond dispute are the boundaries they pushed outward. The fuller truth is how they rewrote the rules of the industry, raising standards for status, pay, and recognition. And so, the crown rests on a shared dynasty. 5 rulers who carried a profession onto the world stage.